Welcome to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining us. We've got Bob Rosen, CEO and founder, Healthy Companies, New York Times best-selling author, healthycompanies.com is his website. Bob, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
Glad you're here. Tell us about your background and then let's get into Healthy Companies. I've got a list of questions for you.
Sure. Well, I'm a psychologist and a businessman, and I've spent the last 30 years studying and advising top CEOs in large global companies around the world. I've actually interviewed in our research about 600 CEOs of large global corporations in about 55 countries. And I've written 8 books on leadership, and my most recent book is called Conscious: The Power of Awareness in Business and Life. And Conscious is a deeply human approach for personal change, and I lay out 4 powerful truths for accelerating change within yourself and within your organization.
All right, let's see a cover of that book.
Sure. Here you go. This is Conscious: The Power of Awareness in Business and Life.
All right. In your book, what do you mean when you say conscious is the new smart?
Well, many of us grew up in a paradigm that said that we were supposed to be the smartest kid in the class. And we got reinforced for that, and we went through high school and college. And then when we entered business, it was really important for us to know things and be wise and smart. But being smart has become table stakes in the world, and it gets you in the room, but being conscious keeps you there. And being conscious is about being aware of yourself, being aware of your relationships with others, and being aware of your surroundings and environment. And we've found from our work studying and advising CEOs that the more conscious you are, the faster you adapt and the higher performing you are in business and in life.
I believe that, and it kind of goes without saying, but I'm gonna bring this out from you. Why is having conscious leaders so critical today, from your perspective?
Right. Well, if you think of any business, any sector, whether it's government or nonprofits or large corporations, the world is becoming more disruptive and accelerating. And we need leaders who can survive and thrive in that environment. Conscious enables them to navigate through all that change. And that's really the business case. The problem, the big culprit, is that we have a lot of people in the world who are just simply not aware. They're not aware of themselves, and they're not aware of their surroundings. Some of us are just too small or too safe in the way we interact in the world. We're too blinded in our mindset. We don't see the bigger picture, or we don't go deep enough inside ourselves and understand the impact we have on others. Conscious leaders are people who go deep, they think big, they get real, and they step up in life.
What are the 4 steps one can take to become more conscious?
Sure. The first one is to go deep. Go deep is about getting in touch with your inner world, to be more introspective. This is really about understanding your story in life and how you show up in the world. It's knowing your strengths and shortcomings. In this disruptive world, it's also about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and living with just the right amount of anxiety to propel you forward. This is really all about go deep. One of my favorite examples is Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey has become a fantastic leader over her lifetime, but she's been deeply authentic, and she's been deeply comfortable with her own vulnerability. And she shared that on the public stage, and people are very attracted to people who are real. That's the first step of going deep. The second step is to think big into a world of possibilities. One of my favorite examples is Reed Hastings, the CEO and founder of Netflix. Here, Reed was able to think about his business in a very bold way, understanding how technology and consumerism and video development would come together over time to form an amazing niche for Netflix. This is somebody who looks over the horizon. He's almost able to be his own drone. and to develop what we call in the book a Google mind, a mind that is continuously expanding and being relevant to a changing world. He also has built an amazing network, and conscious leaders are masters at building a great personal ecosystem, whether it's through technology or through just relationships out in the marketplace. So going deep and thinking big are the first two. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I want to hear him. These are four.
Okay, great. Get real is about being honest and intentional. It's really about being a change agent in your life. We are constantly transforming every moment of every day. Our hair changes, our skin transforms itself, and every day we wake up, we have the opportunity to be a bigger and better person, a bigger and better leader than we were the day before. So conscious leaders are really, really strong change agents in their lives. Now, what enables them to be great change agents is that they master accelerators, personal accelerators that drive them forward, like their faith or confidence or hope or a sense of optimism or being present in the world. They also manage their own hijackers. Their hijackers are things that undermine them, like being too controlling or being perfectionistic or overwhelmed by stress and burnout. My favorite example here is Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps was a master Olympian swimmer, but he never really, and he admits this, never took care of his own self. He was a great swimmer, but he left his self-development behind. And when he left the Olympics, he kind of fell apart. He had a couple DUIs. He had problems in relationships with his family, and he got some therapy, actually went inpatient for a while, and emerged a much more full person. Now, we all have hijackers like Michael Phelps, but Michael Phelps learned to be aware of them and to tap his accelerators and his hijackers. The last one is to step up, to be bold and accountable in your world. This involves having a higher purpose in your life, to being bigger and better than you found yourself each day. It also involves leading with what I call constructive impatience, creating great environments, but also raising the bar on yourself and others all the time, going over or under or around the obstacles, and then also being civil and generous. So go deep, think big, get real, and step up. Those are the four practices that we lay out in Conscious.
Those are so, I should say that they hit right to the core. I mean, that really resonates with me, with what you said. If you'd like, we can drill down a little deeper in bringing out some of the people you've interviewed.
Sure.
And that we should talk about emulating the parts in them that would really expand our horizons and drive us to be better people in, obviously, it's not just business, but the well-rounded self.
Right. Well, if you look at the title of your program, CEO Money, one of the things I've learned about great CEOs, whether it's the retired CEO of Ford Motor Company, Alan Mulally, or Pope Francis, for that matter, or Mary Barra at General Motors. These are leaders who are self-aware and deeply committed to their own development. They're conscious. They're grounded and conscious people. And that enables them to understand that value is created in a corporation by focusing on four agendas: the human agenda, the marketplace agenda, the operations agenda, and the finance agenda, which is the scorecard for doing everything else right. But the human agenda is the leading indicator of business. And when you have self-aware and people who are committed to being conscious and their own development, they understand the power of the human agenda, the values, the leadership, the purpose, and the culture of the corporation. And when they do that well, everything else falls into place if they have a good product. If they have a good product, it doesn't take the place of not having a product that people want to buy, but the human agenda drives this. So there's a real business case for Conscious. We actually have a 360 assessment where we look at grounded and conscious leaders, and we ask how they are performing, and we ask their bosses and their peers and their subordinates. And what we found is that the more self-aware people actually outperform their counterparts in terms of building a shared vision, executing performance, creating healthy and strong productive relationships, unleashing the growth potential of the corporation. So actually we now have data that shows that self-awareness drives higher performance. And we actually just did a new survey with the Harris poll, and we asked Americans how conscious are our leaders. And what we found is less than half of Americans think that their leaders are very conscious in society. And that has a direct effect on how quickly they can adapt. So we're starting to find examples of leaders who are very conscious and how that is related to building a great company, and also some survey data asking Americans how important being conscious is. And they say that conscious leaders build great organizations and actually perform better financially as a result of being conscious. So there's some research to back this up as well.
I would like to drill down more in that, because I know that you've got separate cases where you can talk about this person did this, and this is the path to greater consciousness, and these are the results. That's another show. We can do that. Being conscious for individuals and companies is a little different than being mindful. Open that up for us.
Sure. Well, mindful is being aware in the present moment. And a lot of people have taken to the practice of being mindful, which is great. And it helps you become more self-aware as you're meditating or taking a walk. But conscious is much bigger than that. Conscious is bringing awareness into action. It's basically bringing a sense of awareness into your decision making, into how you show up leading a team conversation. It's about how you interact with customers. It's about how you bring an inclusive mindset into an innovation challenge inside organizations. So we've taken mindfulness and just blown it up and said, what is the skill that leaders need every moment of every day? And when I say leaders, I'm talking about leaders at all levels of companies, because we believe at Healthy Companies that the most important capability moving forward in this changing world is to develop a grounded and conscious workforce. That is what will enable the company to survive and thrive moving forward.
I agree with that. Now, we pride ourselves in talking to people who are disruptors, processes, products, and actually the individual who's a disruptor, thought leaders. You happen to be one of those. Bring your thoughts out on that new, if you will, the new way of thinking that people are going through. Consciousness is one of them, but how are the disruptors adapting to being more consciousness? Because obviously some of them are superhuman.
Right. Well, we have to sort of go up 20,000 feet and look at what are the most common disruptors that are affecting everybody.
Yes.
And we often talk about the impact they have on a country or on a company or an industry, but rarely do we talk about what's the impact of the disruptors on ourselves as individuals. We've noticed 6 disruptors. The first is speed. The world is changing faster than ever before. The second is uncertainty. We have finally come to realize that stability is an illusion and that uncertainty is reality. So how do we thrive in a world that is constantly unpredictable? The third is complexity. There's simply more choices, more information, more technology than ever before. So how do we thrive in a complex world? The fourth one is competition. The fifth one is obviously technology. It's the uber disruptor of all. And the last one is globalization. All 6 of these are impacting people. Now, some people can respond to these disruptors by sort of sweeping all the changes under the rug. They live in a bubble. They pretend that the world is not changing, when in fact the world is changing faster than the ability of people to reinvent themselves, to adapt. Other people are overwhelmed by those disruptors, and they get sucked in with all the chaos and the stress, and they get overwhelmed by them. The very best leaders, the conscious people around us, are able to understand those disruptors, anticipate them, and leverage them for their own competitive advantage. And they do that by developing just enough anxiety inside of them, which becomes productive energy that enables them to navigate through all the change and get comfortable being uncomfortable when they're focusing on a changing world.
Bob, this has been a marvelous learning experience for me. I really appreciate you being on the show. I'd like to extend an invitation, because each one of these things that we spoke about, minimum is a chapter, but being able to look inside of your mind and share it through question and answer is going to add a whole new level to the topics that you put in your book. And I'd like to extend an offer to be able to at least get small excerpts into each one of these chapters as we go forward.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to share it. Right now, we're spending a lot of time bringing conscious and grounded workshops into organizations, both for executives and managers and employees and individual contributors, so that we can help organizations develop this this new intelligence, if you will, about thriving in a new world. The book is actually written in very short chapters, 5-page chapters, and they're based on practices and how-tos and a lot of stories and research that talks about how do you go deep and think big and get real and step up. So we've written the book for the masses, and it's called Conscious: The Power of Awareness in Business and Life. And I'd be happy to bring that forward on your show.
Yes, and I'm sure as you go through these workshops, you're going to come up with insights that maybe you hadn't thought about yet that come out that I would like to talk about.
No question about it. I mean, I have a whole philosophy that you learn lots by going out and listening and talking to leaders on the front line. And that's how all of our books have been written. And then we try to bring some fresh frameworks to bear so it's easier for people to learn. And, the most important skill of all these days is learning agility, learning on the fly, keeping your eyes and ears open to a changing marketplace. Conscious is coming out at an interesting time in this country when we're actually having conversations about the consciousness of our leaders. And that's an important conversation, but we also have to put a mirror up to ourselves in terms of how we're contributing to the challenges and problems that we face. We do believe that, and I guess this, I'll say that conscious people are happier and healthier in their lives. Conscious organizations are more agile, they're more innovative and productive, and the societies are more productive. But we're operating in a time when cynicism is very high, partisanship and polarization is at an all-time high, and mistrust is also high. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of improving the consciousness of our people and citizens in society.
Well said. All right, Bob, thanks for being a guest on the show. I really appreciate that.
My pleasure. You have a good day.
Mine too. This is Bob Rosen on our show. This is Michael Yorba. Thanks for watching CEO Money. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back with more great content for you.